Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our second session in the Back to School Bootcamp. This session is on conquering money stress in the classroom, and we are here with Dr. Wally Luckeydoo, the 2026 Jumpstart Carlisle Public Policy Award winner, and a fantastic teacher and resource. And I'm so excited for y'all to hear from him. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you're from if you want. We'd love to hear from you. It's so fun to have teachers just all across the country. Let us know whether you're in school or out of school, and maybe even what you're excited to learn from this session. If you have any questions for Wally as we go ahead and drop those in the chat. We'll be moderating that, so we'll get back to you, or we'll hold the questions. Some of the questions maybe for the end. So we have all sorts of people just joining us here, which is so fun. So hopefully everything's okay on your end with audio. If you have questions, again, I said in the chat, we should be good to go. So this is just a look at our high-level schedule for the day. So again, we're at the 10:45 to 11:45 session, Keynote with Dr. Wally Luckeydoo. Our next session is at 12 o'clock. It's no extra prep needed, Banzai's lesson plans, and I'm actually going to be hosting that one and walking you through our brand new free lesson plans. And we are so excited to share that with you. Session after that, we're having another guest, Joel Chrysler, Director of Teacher Engagement at Jumpstart. He's going to be talking to us about their different programs, including their brand new honors program. We have a session after that on our new reality fair. We have just tons of new resources for teachers this year. If you're new to Bonsai, or if you want to refresh on some just different things that we've changed with our lesson plans and reality fair, we've changed our teacher interface somewhat. You're going to want to tune in at 2:15 for our teacher demo. Ready, set, teach with our teacher success manager, Jenica Fisher. That's going to be awesome. And then we have our closing keynote at 3 o'clock about putting on your own mask first and sharing with you some Bonsai resources that we have for teachers, because we get that question a lot from teachers who they want to learn about financial literacy themselves so they feel confident teaching it to their students. So exciting to see so many people from across the country, and this is going to be well worth your time. Dr. Wally Luckeydoo is an award-winning educator, professor, researcher, and nationally recognized financial literacy advocate dedicated to advancing financial literacy through experiential learning, technology, and innovation. He believes students learn best by doing, and as do we at Bonsai. And he has built his career around creating engaging, hands-on learning experiences that prepare learners for success beyond the classroom. Dr. Luckeydoo teaches personal finance, dual enrollment personal finance, and work-based learning at Smyrna High School in Tennessee. In higher education, he serves as an adjunct professor, teaching classes in personal finance, sports entrepreneurship, event and facility management, and other sports management disciplines at Abilene Christian University, Bethel University, and Cumberland University. He is the creator of MoneySecret.net, an educational initiative inspired by the power of storytelling that invites individuals to anonymously share their money secrets, creating opportunities for honest conversations through the emotional and behavioral sides of personal finance. Through this project, Dr. Luckeydoo helps educators and students better understand the human side of financial decision-making. Dr. Luckeydoo regularly presents at state and national conferences on financial literacy, artificial intelligence, educational technology, and innovative teaching practices. And he currently serves as the vice president of the Tennessee Jumpstart, where he works to advance financial literacy education across the state. His contributions to education have earned national and state recognition. Dr. Luckeydoo is the recipient of the 2026 Excellent in Financial Literacy Education Eiffel Educator of the Year Award, the 2026 Jumpstart Corey Carlisle Public Policy Award, and the 2025 Tennessee Educational Technology Association Outstanding Educator of the Year Award. He's also been recognized as a Next Gen Personal Finance Distinguished Educator for his leadership in advancing financial literacy education. Dr. Luckeydoo holds 6 academic degrees spanning educational leadership, business, education, sports administration, and exercise science. So he's got credentials from across the board and numerous certifications in financial literacy, educational technology, and AI. A fun fact about Wally, he has a creative side in television, and film. So he has appeared as an extra on several television productions, including Nashville, Chrisley Knows Best, and Still the King, with his most recent appearance on Bar Rescue alongside his wife. He also had a speaking role on a student-produced film at Smyrna High School that's available on Amazon Prime, and Wally even has an IMDb profile featuring his work in television and film. So truly, this is a teacher that can do it all, and we are so lucky to have you here to share with our students. And please take it away, Wally.
Thank you. Thanks for all of that. That was so nice. Good morning, good afternoon. I guess if you're in the East Coast, be afternoon. I'm really excited to be with you guys today. Hey, everyone. Let me try to share my screen real quick before we get started. Of course, that's always necessary. All right. Can you see me? My screen? Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, looks great.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm excited to learn with all you guys today. First, I want to thank Banzai for inviting me to be part of this year's Back to School Bootcamp. I came last year. It was so great. It's an honor to have the opportunity to connect with personal finance educators from all across the country. Um, I'm really excited about today's sessions. There's incredible people presenting through today's events. I encourage you to attend as many of those as you can because there's so many great ideas, resources, strategies that you can take back to your classrooms this school year. Today, we're going to talk about something every single one of us has experienced in some way: money stress. Not just our students' money stress, our own money stress. The money stress that walks through the doors of our classrooms every single day with the students we serve. Because when a student walks in our classroom, they do not uh, leave their life at the door. They bring it with them. They bring their family, they bring their experiences, they bring their worries, they bring their fears, they bring their financial circumstances, they bring everything that has shaped who they are before they ever sit down in our classroom. A student may be worried about whether there will be enough food at home. A student may be working after school because their family depends on that income. A student may be worried about paying for college. A student may have watched their parents struggle with debt. A student may carry financial anxiety they do not even have the words to explain. Then we have to ask them to sit down and learn about budgeting, saving, credit, investing, retirement. And all of those things matter. They're important, they're necessary, but before we can help students conquer money stress, we have to understand where that money stress comes from. And that leads me to what I believe is the missing piece of financial education: understanding the person behind the financial decision. We do a great job at teaching students financial concepts. We teach budgeting, we teach saving, we teach debt, we teach investing, we teach insurance, we teach taxes, we teach retirement. We teach the numbers, and we absolutely should, but financial education has never been just about numbers. Financial decisions are about behavior, they're about emotions, they're about habits, they're about experiences. They're about the beliefs we develop and the stories we inherit from the people around us. Because before we can help someone manage money, we have to help them understand their relationship with money. We have to understand why people make the decisions they make. We have to understand the experience that helped shape those decisions. We have to understand the person behind the financial decision. And I believe that understanding can help us begin to conquer money stress in the classroom. Now, we cannot solve every financial problem our students face. We cannot control the economy. We cannot change their family circumstances, and we cannot erase financial hardship. But what we can do is we can create classrooms where money is not something students have to be ashamed of. We can create classrooms where students feel safe asking questions. We can create classrooms where students can talk about financial stress. We can help students explore their financial behaviors. We can give them opportunities to practice making financial decisions, and we can help them understand that their current circumstances do not have to determine their future. We can give them something that's incredibly powerful, which is financial confidence. And I want to explore that with you today because I believe conquering money stress does not start with a spreadsheet. It starts with understanding, and sometimes it starts with a conversation. Every single one of us joining today has a money story, and no two money stories are alike. We all have different starting points. We all have different experiences. We all have different responsibilities. We all have different goals, and those experiences shape the way we think about money. I want you to think about your own money story for a moment. What was the first lesson you learned about money? Maybe it came from your parents. Maybe it came from your grandparents. Maybe it came from watching your family make difficult financial choices. Maybe it came from watching your family succeed. Maybe money was something your family talked about openly. Maybe money was something nobody talked about. But whether we realize it or not, those experiences shaped us. They shaped our beliefs, they shaped our habits, they shaped our behaviors. And the same is true for our students. Every student who walks into our classroom has a different money story, and those stories matter. I want to share a little bit about my own money story because it helps explain why I believe so strongly that financial behavior is such an important part of financial education. One of my biggest goals in my own life has been to stop the financial struggle that's happened in my family for generations. I wanted to understand money, not because money is the most important thing in life. It is not. My family taught me that. But I wanted to understand money because I wanted to have choices. I wanted to be prepared. I wanted to take care of my family. And I wanted the next generation that goes after me to have opportunities that previous generations did not always have. When I think about where that started, I think about my grandparents. My grandparents lived through the Great Depression. They knew what it felt like to experience scarcity. They knew what it meant to wonder if there would be enough. Both my grandfathers did not graduate from high school. They were drafted in the Army and served our country during World War II. One of my grandfathers received 3 Purple Hearts and several other awards for his service. I'm incredibly grateful for the sacrifices they made for our country. After the war, they came home and they worked hard. One became a mechanic at Broughton's Milk Company, and the other worked for Johnson's, which is a local grocery store. They provided for their families. They did what they knew how to do, but they also carried experiences of the Great Depression with them. They remembered hardship. They remembered uncertainty. They remembered what it felt like to not have enough, and those experiences shaped their relationship with money. They were afraid of the stock market, so when they were able to save money, they put it into a savings account. Someone might look at that decision today and say, they should have invested, but that's not fair because they were not living their life. I did not experience what they experienced. Their financial decisions made sense based on their money story, and that's the point. We have to understand the person behind the financial decision. My grandparents did not have personal finance classes. They did not have financial literacy resources. They had life experience. They had lessons learned through hardship. And honestly, my grandparents were some of the greatest people I've ever known. They're my heroes because they had something money can't buy. They were kind, they were generous, they helped people, they loved their families, they showed up for others. They might not have had financial education, but they had incredible wisdom about life. Then my parents had an opportunity to change that trajectory. My mom and dad fell in love and got married. Things were going as well as they could. They had my brother, and about 6.5 years later, I came along. Then, just 6 months later, after I was born, my dad passed away. He was only 36 years old, and he did not have life insurance. Everything changed. My mom was a preacher's wife at the time, and suddenly she had to figure out how to raise 2 boys on her own. Our family helped. People stepped up, but financially, it was incredibly difficult. My mom did one heck of a job. She provided for us. She kept moving forward. She did what she had to do. But I also know things could have been very different if there had been a financial plan, if there had been life insurance, if there had been more resources available, if there had been more opportunities. I grew up in Appalachia where finding good paying jobs were not always easy. My mom worked in a bakery for a while, but eventually she took a job at a factory about 40 minutes from our house because it paid better. Every day she made that commute there and back, day after day. She did it because she had 2 boys who depended on her. That's kind of sacrifice that changes a life. I remember those struggles. I remember what it felt like. And somewhere along the way, I made a promise to myself. I did not want that struggle continue with me. I wanted it to stop. I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand investing. I wanted to understand insurance. I wanted to understand retirement. I wanted to understand how people build wealth. Not because money is the most important thing in life. Like I said, it is not, but because knowledge creates choices and choices create opportunities. When I think about my own money story, I realize something. I did not start with a blank slate. I inherited beliefs. I inherited experiences. I inherited fears. I inherited stories. But I also inherited incredible examples of hard work, perseverance, generosity, and resilience. That is what intergenerational financial behavior looks like. Sometimes we inherit the fear. Sometimes we inherit the habits. Sometimes we inherit the mistakes, but we can also inherit the lessons and we can choose what we carry forward. That is why I believe financial education is so powerful, because financial education is not just about teaching someone to manage money, it's about helping someone understand their own money story. That brings me to something I believe deserves more attention in financial education: the connection between our experiences and our financial behaviors. We often talk about adverse childhood experience, or ACEs, in the context of health, mental health, education, and relationships. But we also need to think about how early experiences can shape the way we interact with money. Think about a student who grows up in a household where there's constant financial stress. Maybe they hear their parents arguing about bills. Maybe they worry about whether there will be enough food. Maybe a parent loses a job. Maybe they move because their family cannot afford to stay where they are. Maybe they grow up hearing, "We can't afford that. We do not have enough. Money is always a problem. Money does not grow on trees." And those messages stick with us, and they can follow us into adulthood. Someone may avoid checking their bank account because they are afraid of what they will see. Someone may feel guilty spending money even when they can afford something. Someone may save every penny because they are afraid of going back to a time when they did not have enough. Someone else may spend money quickly because somewhere along the way, they learned that money does not stay around. These behaviors are not always about the numbers in a bank account. They're often about the experiences, emotions, and beliefs people carry with them. Two people can receive the exact same financial education and respond completely different. Why? Because they are not starting from the same place. Their experiences are different. Their families are different. Their environments are different. Their money stories are different. That's why financial education has to be about more than teaching someone what a budget is. We have to help people ask, where did my beliefs about money come from? Are these beliefs actually mine, or are they something that I inherited? Is this behavior helping me, or is it holding me back? That is financial self-awareness, and I believe it is a critical part of financial education. This is one of the reasons I created Money Secret. Money Secret was created because I believe some of the most important conversations about money are the conversations that we are afraid to have. Not just with students, but with adults too. This idea was inspired by Post Secret. And as a millennial, Post Secret was something I look forward to every Sunday because they would just release new secrets. I would go online and read the anonymous secrets people would share from all around the world. I found it fascinating that people could take something they had been carrying privately and anonymously share it with someone else. It made me think, what if we did that with money? What if we created a place where people can anonymously share the things about money they do not feel comfortable saying out loud? The fears, the regrets, the questions, the experiences, the things they have never talked about. That's how Money Secret started. Anyone could submit a money secret. They can share it online or send it through mail. When someone submits a money secret online, I create a visual postcard using artificial intelligence without changing their words. Their words remain their words. The purpose is not to change their story. The purpose is to help their story be seen. Because sometimes seeing someone else's money story helps us realize, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only person who struggles with this. I'm not the only person who feels this way. And that is powerful. Because money can be a lonely topic. People talk about sports. People talk about entertainment. People talk about vacations, but money is different. Money can bring up shame. Money can bring up fear. Money can bring up embarrassment. Sometimes it's easier to talk about someone else's anonymous money secret than it is to talk about our own. And that is where the conversation begins. I also wanted to bring Money Secret into my classroom, so I created a student version specifically for personal finance educators. I created a lesson plan, and a slideshow that teachers can use to help their students explore the emotions and behaviors connected to money. The activity is simple. Students begin by thinking about emotions connected to financial decision making. Each student receives a blank piece of paper, and I ask them to create a money secret. It does not have to be their own. It can be someone else's experience, someone else's fear, someone else's question, someone else's struggle. When they finish, they place those anonymous money secrets around the classroom. Students move around the room and discuss what they see. They talk about the emotions behind the decisions. They talk about the experiences that might have helped shape someone's behavior. They talk about what someone might be feeling. Then we come back together as a class. We discuss what stood out, what surprised you, what patterns did you notice, what emotions kept coming up, what financial behaviors did you see. And at the end of the lesson, students have the opportunity to write their own money secret. They can write, they can draw, they can share whatever they feel comfortable sharing. I put a shoebox at the opposite end of the classroom from where I'm standing, and students can walk over and anonymously submit their money secret. And something interesting happens. Students write things they would never raise their hands and say in front of the class. Some share things they might not even tell their closest friends. Some share fears about money. Some share struggles at home. Some share questions they've always been afraid to ask. And as a teacher, those money secrets give you something valuable. They give you insight. You begin to see patterns, overspending, financial anxiety, not having enough, debt, gambling, fear, uncertainty. Those money secrets can help teachers understand what students may be experiencing outside of the classroom. They can guide conversations. They can help us identify what students need. And most importantly, they help build relationships. When students realize that their teacher is willing to talk about money, and I mean really talk about money, it changes the classroom because personal finance is personal. Now, let me give you an example of something that has absolutely nothing to do with financial literacy. I love going to the gym. In my previous life, I was a certified personal trainer with a bachelor's degree in exercise science. I know what I'm supposed to do. Taking certification tests has taught me about exercise, nutrition, calories, and strength training. I know what I should do, and I still love Chick-fil-A a lot. I can tell you how many calories are in something. I can tell you how many calories I should probably be eating. I can tell you how much exercise I should probably be getting, but knowing those things does not automatically make me do those things because behaviors matter, habits matter, emotions matter, environments matter. Sometimes I'm hungry, sometimes I'm tired, and sometimes I just really want Chick-fil-A. And sometimes I make the decision to eat it anyway. Here's the point. Knowing is not always doing, and the same thing happens with personal finance. We can teach students how a budget works. We can teach the importance of saving. We can explain compound interest. We can teach how credit works. We can explain why high interest debt can create problems. We can teach investing. A student can understand all of these concepts and still make a financial decision that is not aligned with what they know. Why? Because financial decisions are not just about information. They're about behavior. They're about emotions. They're about habits. They're about experiences. They're about beliefs. That is why financial education has to include financial behavior. We need to teach students the numbers. We also need the students to understand the person making the decision. And this is one of the reasons why I appreciate resources like Banzai, because financial education should just not be about what students know. It has to be about what students can do. Students need opportunities to practice financial decisions. They need opportunities to experience choices. They need opportunities to experience trade-offs. They need opportunities to make mistakes in a safe environment. Because real life does not come with an answer key. Real life requires judgment. Real life requires problem solving. Real life requires confidence. That's why experiential learning is so powerful. We can tell students that unexpected expenses happen. But experiencing an unexpected expense creates a different type of learning. We can tell students that choices involve trade-offs, but making those choices helps students understand why. We can tell students that saving matters, but experiencing the decision between spending today and planning for tomorrow creates understanding. That is what makes simulations and real-world experiences so valuable. One of the things I appreciate about Banzai is that it helps students experience financial decision making. Students are not just memorizing vocabulary, they're not just completing worksheets, they're working through situations that require decisions. They're seeing how choices impact outcomes. They're practicing skills they will need long after they leave our classrooms after they graduate. Banzai gives students a place to explore budgeting, saving, spending, credit, debt, and planning for the future. But even more importantly, it gives students a place to ask, what influenced my decision? Why did I choose that? What would I do differently next time? That reflection is where learning happens. Because the goal is not just for students to complete a lesson, the goal is for students to leave our classrooms more confident. I love Banzai's reality fair because it moves financial education from theory into practice. Students get to see that adulthood is not just about earning money, it is about managing choices. They have income, they have expenses, they have unexpected situations. They have to make decisions. And one of my favorite moments is watching students realize this is harder than I thought. That is the moment when learning happens. That is when students begin to understand trade offs. That is when financial education becomes real. So, how do we take this understanding and apply it in our classrooms? How do we help students move from financial stress to financial confidence? I want to share a few strategies that have worked for me. Start with conversations, not content. One of the biggest mistakes we can make in financial education is jumping straight into the numbers. Before students can learn about budgets, credit scores, or investing, they need to feel comfortable talking about money. Money is emotional. Money connects to family experiences, beliefs, and personal values. So start with questions instead of, what is a budget? Try, what is something you wish every teenager knew about money? Or what money lesson you wish someone taught you earlier? Or what is something people misunderstand about money? These questions open the door. They help students realize that money is something we can talk about. Create a classroom where students can ask questions without embarrassment. Students should not feel ashamed because they do not know something. They should not feel embarrassed because their family does things differently. They should not feel uncomfortable asking questions. I tell my students, the goal of this class is not to prove what you already know about money. The goal is to learn something that can help you for the rest of your life. Use real world experiences, not just worksheets. Students do not need another worksheet where they define terms. They need opportunities to make decisions. They need simulations. They need scenarios. They need case studies. They need experiences. They need a safe place to make mistakes. That's why resources like Banzai are so valuable. They allow students to practice financial decision making before the stakes are real. Connect financial concepts to students' lives. Personal finance is personal. Students need to understand why something matters. When we teach credit, do not just teach a credit score. Talk about buying a car, renting an apartment, getting a phone, applying for a job. When we teach investing, do not just teach about compound interest. Talk about goals. Talk about choices. Talk about opportunities. Students need to understand this matters because it impacts my life. Let students reflect on their decisions. One of my favorite questions to ask students is, why did you make that choice? Not, was your choice right or wrong? Because financial decisions are rarely just right or wrong. They're influenced by priorities, they're influenced by circumstances, they're influenced by experiences, and reflection helps students understand themselves, and that's where financial confidence begins. Before I close, I want to talk about something especially important for this audience, the financial reality of being an educator. I absolutely love what I do. I love being a personal finance teacher. I love teaching. I love my students. I love helping young people understand that this is a subject that can truly change the trajectory of their lives. But loving what you do does not always mean it's easy. Teaching is very rewarding and it's very meaningful. Teaching is one of the most important professions in the world, but teaching is hard. Sometimes the financial stress teachers carry make it even harder. Teachers have bills. We have mortgages or rent. We have insurance. We have groceries. We have childcare. We all have cars that need repairs. We have unexpected expenses. We have families who depend on us. Sometimes we have to find ways to make the numbers work. That's why so many educators have what I like to call side quests. Some teachers work another job, some tutor, some coach, some teach summer school, some create resources, some have businesses, and some, like me, have side quests connected to education. For me, that includes teaching college courses and working with organizations focused on financial literacy and education. And I love those opportunities. But I also understand why many educators take on extra responsibilities. Sometimes it's not because we want to do more, sometimes it's because we need to. And I think it's important to acknowledge that because sometimes we stand in front of our students and teach financial wellness while quietly carrying our own financial stress. We're human. We have our own money stories. We have our own challenges. We're all on our own financial journeys. And that's okay. In fact, I think it makes us all better teachers because we understand. We understand that money is personal. We understand that financial decisions are complicated. We understand that people are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. As we think about the future of financial education, I want to remember the missing piece. The missing piece is not another formula, it's not another worksheet, it's not another test, it's not even another financial concept. The missing piece is the person behind the financial decision, the student who grew up hearing arguments about money, the student who experienced financial insecurity, the students whose families never talked about money, the students who believe they will never have enough, the student who is afraid to invest, the student who spends money to feel better, the student is always carrying a financial story they do not fully understand. That is the missing piece. And when we help students understand that piece, we give them the opportunity to understand where they came from without allowing their past to determine where they are going. We can teach the numbers, we can teach the skills, we can give them opportunities to practice, but we can also help them understand themselves because money is more than math. Money is personal, money is emotional, money is behavioral, money is generational. Every financial decision has a story behind it. Every student has a money story. Every teacher has a money story. Every one of us has a relationship with money shaped by our experiences. And as financial educators, we have the opportunity to help students understand these stories. Because when we understand the stories, we can begin to understand the behaviors. And when we understand the behaviors, we can begin to change them. And when we change the behaviors, we can change the outcomes. We cannot change what happened to our students before they walked into our classrooms, but we can help them change what happens next. We cannot eliminate every source of financial stress, but we can help students better prepared to navigate it. We can give them knowledge. We can give them skills. We can give them confidence. We can give them opportunities to practice, and we can remind them that they are not alone. Because conquering money stress does not mean every student will graduate without financial challenges, because that's not realistic. It means they graduate knowing how to navigate those challenges. It means they understand their money story. It means they recognize the behaviors and emotions that influence their decisions. It means they know where to turn to for help. It means they have practiced making financial decisions before the stakes become real. And it means they have the confidence to take the next step. Maybe the greatest impact of financial education is not simply helping one student balance a budget or understand a credit score. Maybe it is helping one student become the person who changes the financial story of an entire family for generations. One student, one classroom, one conversation, one decision at a time. Thank you.
Wally, thank you so much. Oh, got to turn my camera back on here.
I'm
There's just so many amazing comments coming in from teachers about how much that this resonates with them. I did share that Padlet link. If you
cool.
haven't had a chance, do you want me to go over there? We can share some of
Yeah.
these. Okay.
Yes,
Let
let's
me,
look at them.
let's look at these. So we had some, here we go.
Wow.
So we have teachers adding now. I don't know. Hopefully you can
Okay.
just see. Is that working okay for everyone?
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so here's
Wow.
some money secrets that have been just added by teachers that are in this session with us, and it is so great for just like this is just such a cool exercise. So some of these things, thrift store items can be great, and we don't always need new. Side note to my colleagues, I did not submit this. I do love a thrift store though, and they all know that. So they probably thought it was me and it wasn't. Um, this is interesting. I knew the exact number. My parents had a nasty divorce, and my dad told me he would pay me $578 a week if I went to live with him. I was 8. No child should know the exact number a parent has to pay for child support. My dad always had a lot of money, and my mom was always dirt poor. Yes, that will impact you. I was taught not to waste money. Learning to have my own financial stability. Watching my mother struggle financially because of a lack of resources taught me that she could stretch a dollar like no one. Another comment, I buy more than I need, but always on clearance so I can justify it. Some sort of scarcity mindset there for sure. Yes, that does happen. Wally, do you want to read a few of these?
Yeah, the one stood out to me. My grandparents cashed out their 401k early so I could live with my mom. I didn't find out until I was an adult, but my grandparents gave my mother money so that she could pay for a study to show that living with her, not my emotionally abusive father, that living with her was in our best interest. The judge ruled in her favor. So basically, just looking at these money secrets, some of these things just are conversation starters just for adults, for students, for everyone. And then each person who reads these, they might have their own take on a money secret has been shared, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Food makes me feel safe. Money is scary for me. I'm miserably with my money. It took me 3 months to buy a $5 coloring book. The only place I can splurge is at the grocery store because food makes me feel safe. I may not have much money, but I will survive because I have food. Never really had food insecurity, but it scares me. So you guys are all being brave and sharing your secrets. These are awesome. Um, but that's basically what Money Secret is about. It's just to have conversations around money because everyone was talking about money is taboo, right? We shouldn't talk about money. And then the person next door to me, guess what? They're probably experiencing the same things I am. So how do we break that stigma?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a few questions from you. We have a few questions from teachers. Actually, one teacher was saying a quick video to explain the emotion of money to students as an intro would be great for all teachers and students. I've got great news for you, David. In our lesson plans that we'll cover in the next session, we actually are first in our high school financial literacy and also in our middle school financial literacy course. The first unit is sort of on this mindset, not sort of, it is on a mindset and getting understanding your money values and that sort of things. But we do have videos coming in the fall, and we'll absolutely look into adding one on that topic. Um,
I have
yeah,
this
just let
lesson
me.
plan also available on the moneysecret.net
Oh,
website, and it has the
perfect.
slideshow on there, and it gives you a video about what Money Secret is about too. If anyone want to check out moneysecret.net.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So I've got a question for you. So as teachers are breaking these emotional taboos around money, how do you recommend they handle like personal boundaries, right? So they can create a safe space for students without feeling maybe pressured to share their own financial situations or oversharing, right? Like how do you negotiate that? Is it via this website as like here's the portal that can kind of create that separation that's needed in the privacy for teachers, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's basically what I do. I use this Money Secret lesson in order to be able to do what you're asking. And then I'll put the shoe box, or now I have a Money Secret box at the opposite end of the room from me. And then after the students leave, I'll look through these, and then we'll talk about a lot of these the next day, or we'll talk about it in a group. Um, I share a lot of the stuff with my students because I want them to know. I show them what my mortgage payment looks like. I am okay with that, but at the same time, I know some teachers might not be comfortable sharing with that. So you just need to do what works for you. Also, you do need to create boundaries because students will eventually see like your address whenever you're showing your mortgage statement, and they'll look your house up. So that's
Okay, so
never
that
happened to
kind of
me.
comes with the territory. Yeah, Kaylee Irwin says, I show my students my pay stub. Honestly,
Mhm.
that is incredible for students to be able to see kind of on the level of this is even how much comes out of my paycheck for all these different things and what I'm paid and whatnot to kind of get them a grasp on reality, right? So that's awesome. If anyone else has any thoughts on, having those personal boundaries or how they decide to handle sharing with their students, feel free to drop those in the chat. Okay, here's another question for you. How do you frame discussions around this overcoming a scarcity mindset with students that do actually come from severely under-resourced backgrounds, right? Like we don't want to be dismissive of like, you need a better mindset. And
All
you
right.
just need to pick your values. And if you value a vacation over car, you pick the vacation when we're talking about um, people that you said like food insecurity, all that sort of thing. So what's the balance there?
So the school I teach at is a Title One school, so I have a lot of economically disadvantaged students, and sometimes students don't want to talk about that kind of thing, but we do have conversations around that. We'll talk about different options and different choices that they may have. You lay out different choices that students and families have. At the same time, they know that they can come to me because we develop a relationship at the beginning of the class. If something else is going on, they can come to me and talk to me, and I can show them where to go for a certain resource that they may need or their family might need. I'm pretty open about things, but yes, you're right. I mean, it's a very weird boundary to be on, but students need to know what choices and options they have available to them because some don't
Right.
really know at all. Like they don't
Yeah.
know what resources are out there.
Well, and you might be having some students who don't, maybe their parents don't use a bank. Maybe they do payday loans. Maybe like they don't understand that there are other options, or they don't even understand how predatory some of these practices are, right? And I'm sure you can open their eyes to those in the financial literacy classroom.
We have a lot of parents um, who do not go to banks and they don't believe in banks, and they go to a place around here called Advanced Financial, and they start with these loans, and they have to pay to get their checks cashed, and we have to talk about what those look like and what the terms and the agreements. We go through the little terms and agreements, and then we bring up a calculator. How much is this money actually costing to borrow? So those are just some few examples. Just find things that are real.
Yeah. Another question for you in the chat. What common mistakes should teachers avoid when teaching financial literacy? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. What would you say to other teachers?
assuming just assuming things
Oh, okay.
because you don't ever want to assume anything. You might have a student who you think is well off and you're trying to teach them something about financial literacy and they have no idea what's going on. Because I had in one of my classes, I had a parent, well, a family who's worked in the banking industry, and I thought everything was going great, and I assumed that the kid would know a lot about financial literacy, and their parents didn't talk to him about money. So how's that work? Um, Also, I mean, just having just a textbook, and if or I'm not sure if we're talking about actual like teaching practices here or not, but you don't want to this subject that there's so many resources available for financial literacy that you shouldn't just be reading off a textbook or you know what I'm saying, or doing worksheets and watching a video on, I don't know, someone speaking about financial literacy, because there's so many things out there. I see just teachers putting on a video sometimes and doing a worksheet and calling it financial literacy.
Yeah. That's great. A comment we had, having the hard conversations is important as a teacher. I would basically say this might ruffle some feathers, but I'm going to talk to about money to help you. It's going to hurt some of you and your families to really think about this, but it's going to hurt more if you don't deal with it or something along those lines. So maybe preface that like, hey, we know there's some tender feelings here or that there's some trigger points and we're going to talk about it anyway, right? Bring those things up. What about if a teacher only has like 5 minutes, the beginning of the end of a lesson, is there something that you can do to like help relieve like anxiety? Like, do you have anything like that that you do that helps kids like, I don't know, ground themselves in reality, or do you just jump in and making it a safe place and being willing to have those honest conversations probably makes them feel comfortable.
I usually start by trying just to build relationships with them in general, with
Okay.
nothing with financial literacy related at the very beginning of the course, because that's one of the most important things when you're a teacher is to start developing those relationships. And once those relationships are formed, then they're going to be more likely to talk to you. But always have a question or something like a bell ringer on the board, and then that develops into more people in the class, more students in the classroom talking to me about what that might be, what that might look like. So
Okay.
I also establish different routines, and how we're going to do things each day, because once they have established that, they're going to come in the classroom and know what to expect. So um, they aren't going to be as scared to, and like we're like a no judgment class. We don't judge anybody in the class. I say that, but some kids still might have anxiety. That's just who they are as a person.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Michelle asked about what's the best way a student could use AI to help them with financial literacy. I'm actually going to drop a link in the chat to a previous webinar. We have Wally. Wally is a back by popular demand, folks. He came about a year ago and did a webinar for us on using AI in the classroom. So we've posted that on our PD site. I will link that. And then Wally, I'll let you answer as well.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're doing. There's different projects that you can do with artificial intelligence. One of the most recent things that's come out, you can use it for any class. You can have it tutor the kid or whatever the topic might be. Notebook LM is one of my favorites. If you watch the video from last year, it's now I changed the name of it. Gemini Notebook, I think is what it is now. But you can upload like a PDF in there and you can look at different financial literacy studies and it will break all that stuff down for you. But you just really have to mess around with it, see what you like and what you don't like. Then you also need to look at your school district's AI policies because they're probably there by now to see what you can use and what your students can use.
Okay, awesome. Um, Here's one more question for you. So most of the state financial literacy standards that are coming out focus like heavily on mechanics, right? What is a credit score? How does compound interest work? What's the difference between compound interest and compounding? Different things like that. How can educators advocate for integrating these psychological and emotional wellness standards in? Do you have thoughts on that?
Well, it depends on if you have connections within your state. I know in my state, what I would do, I live in the state of Tennessee, and we have a great group of people dealing with personal finance and personal finance education. We have something called the Tennessee Financial Literacy Commission here, who works with the government and the education side of things. So the guy who runs it in Tennessee, his name is Bill Parker. So I'd reach out to Bill and say, hey, do you think you could help us put emotions and stuff in the standards? And he would reach out to a woman named Carla Bolden here in Tennessee, and they would get together and see if that can be added to the state standards. You could also approach like your Jumpstart organization if your state has one, and they could help you with that because they're pretty knowledgeable about what's going on in the financial education space.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. And how did you get, when you were first a new financial literacy teacher, how did you start getting involved with these committees and the people and connections? Was it conferences?
Yeah, so I had when I first started teaching personal finance, I had a lady who had went to a different subject, and she just told me to turn a Dave Ramsey video on and do worksheets with the kids. And then I didn't know that she had won like a Jumpstart Teacher of the Year award for Tennessee, and I was like, "What is Jumpstart?" So I started searching online, what is this? Because I had no idea what that was. So it started with going to conferences and then just networking and getting on LinkedIn. And then then I learned about next gen personal finance, and all this stuff has just evolved over time as I started teaching personal finance.
Awesome. That's great. If you have any more questions for Wally, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'm just going to go over a few quick housekeeping outro items when I can find my slides. Hold on, y'all. Where are we? There we go. Now I'm gonna, oh boy. Sometimes the technology, there we go.
If you guys haven't applied for the Jumpstart conference, you guys should apply for it for sure. I'm gonna throw that in there
Yeah,
while you're showing that slide.
yeah, no, that's great. This is such an amazing event. It's the Jumpstart National Educator Conference. If you attended our previous session, might already know about this, but we're giving away a scholarship. It's worth $2,000. It includes registration, 2 hotel nights, and 6 conference meals. All you have to do is attend 2 or more sessions today. We'll put you on a list. We're going to draw names out of the hat, not, the proverbial hat, and we'll email you to let you know. If you don't win through Banzai, you can go ahead and still go to this Jumpstart website to apply for a scholarship. Every teacher at this event attends on a scholarship, and it is truly amazing. The next session coming up, yours truly, myself, and Danica, my colleague, will be presenting at noon on our Bonsai's new lesson plans. I mentioned those starting units that have the money mindsets and whatnot. I'll show you those. how to add them to your classroom, and give you a look into the components of the lesson plans and how you can use those in a turnkey way. Did we have a question here? No, we did not. And reminder that you get a PD certificate for attending this session. That will should be in your inbox tomorrow. And as soon as you submit the survey, giving us some feedback on, the session and the boot camp in general, you'll receive a certificate. And if you need a walkthrough for using Banzai, you can use this QR code, or you can join us at 2:15. Our teacher success manager, Jenica Fisher, is going to be basically giving one of these walkthroughs live in person, and you can ask your questions and get all those answered from her at 2:15 today. I had a question from Ryan about where's the link to apply for the scholarship. If you want to try to win the one that we're doing today with giveaway, you don't need to do anything. Just attend 2 or more sessions and you'll register, you'll come up on our registration list and we'll draw for that. If you want to apply for a scholarship through Jumpstart, Mallory is a rock star and she just added the link into the chat. You go to the Jumpstart website to do that. Thank you so much for coming, Wally. Thank you. That was phenomenal. We're so grateful that we can have you again here and hope everyone can join us at our next session at 12 o'clock.
Thank you all.